I choose to read this as he wants to be with Celes now, but being with Celes, it makes him feel guilty.
Yes.
And so like he can't really give his heart to her.
Right.
And so
I think that's right.
That makes it, seeing it in that light makes it a little less like, oh, Celes is your second choice. If you could have had Rachel, you would have had her. No, it's just that being with Celes, he just couldn't get over this fact that he had failed in the past and whatever trauma he had been through, it made it impossible for him to be with someone new, even if he wanted to.
It would have been really cool.
Welcome back to the State of the Arc podcast. My name is Mike.
My name is Kason.
We're back for, I think, what will be our final episode of Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, probably.
There's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about that we've kind of didn't go over last time, just real quick.
Okay.
First of all,
I had a couple too.
And this was, don't know how this happened. I really don't know. I think we were trying to get, because we were on the solitary island part for the longest, it was like the longest portion of last week's podcast. So I was thinking in my head, like, we got to move on to the next section, and just glazed over this. The reason why Celes finds hope again after her casting herself off the cliff.
Oh, the bird.
Is because the bird brings a bandana that is like Locke's tied to it.
Yes.
Right? There was a scene before this, after the death of General Leo, where Interceptor, I think you had mentioned this, Interceptor comes up, he's injured, and Locke uses his bandana to like tie, to like, bandage him up.
Yeah.
So that's what made her think, oh, he must still be out there.
Yeah.
And that's where her spark of hope to go out and look for him came from.
I have a whole thing to talk about there because there's a lot we missed. I'm actually upset that Sid did not die in my playthrough. The more I thought about it, I'm like, I can't believe I missed that scene because I would have had so many notes. Luckily, Mix wrote some really cool stuff, and Mix is basically like somebody who thinks the way that I think. So very, very helpful. There is an interesting moment that happens when she jumps off, right? Mm-hmm. She jumps off and she lands into the water, and then she washes back up on the shore, right? Now, that basically what happens here is something along the lines of a baptism where part of her dies off and a new part of her, like she's born anew through the water.
Yep.
But what's crazy is that a white dove descends upon her after the baptism, right? So she jumps into the water. She is washed up anew, right? She's basically found new life, and a dove descends upon her with a message of hope, basically. Like, okay, I don't know that it can be any more clear than that. I think that's really good. And from that point on, she then has to cross back over the water and go to the four corners of the earth and gather together the lost people.
How many characters is it?
14. I thought I had that exact thought. I was like, are there 12? Are there 12? There's 12. Technically 14. But in the very end of the game, you only pick 12.
Yeah.
Is it 12?
It is 12.
Yeah.
Because I never pick Gogo or Amaro for this part.
There
because
you go.
They can't equip Espers. And
those are the ones that
I just ignore those people.
And so basically, if you just pretend they don't exist, it is 12. It is 12 that go up the mountain to challenge Kefka. But anyways, it's technically 14 characters. So anyways, I thought that was pretty fun.
12 tribes, people.
Yep. I'm pissed that Sid lived for me so that I had to miss that symbolism and I had to deliver it one episode later. So pissed.
Well, we got to it. If a little late. So that was kind of like the first major thing. The second thing was I think it's a good idea to read Cyan's letter to Lola. We talked about, more or less what's going on within the character and everything, but I think the actual letter itself is pretty great. I am reading the version from the Advance translation, not from the original SNES, and that one is also very good, though. It's actually really well written in that version, too, but here it is in the Advance version. Dear Lola, I am writing to beg your forgiveness. I am guilty of perpetuating a terrible lie. I have only now realized the error of my ways, and taken up this quill in hopes of correcting a great wrong. Your boyfriend, who you believed to be in Mobliz, passed away some time ago. I have been writing to you in his stead. We have a tendency to become trapped in the past and refuse to move on. I implore you not to let this happen. Now is the time for you to look forward and rediscover love and all other joys of life. So
that's so good.
Yeah, it's really good.
because it's relevant to this new world.
Yes.
You know, what we talked last time about how Setzer was like, the past, we can never have that old world again. It's never coming back. And Celes is like, but there's hope for the future to make a good world in the future. And that's more or less what this letter is saying. It's a message to the world, not just to Lola.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, we've already kind of gone over this at each sort of point in the story where its theme has sort of been reinforced. But this is just another example of that. Yeah. This is what the game is about. Like, if you were to really succinctly and in a really, prompt format, get across the theme of Final Fantasy VI, I think it's contained right here in this letter. Yeah. Pretty much as well as you could put it. This is what the game is really about, right? Basically, the end part, I implore you not to let this happen, as in we have a tendency to become trapped in the past.
Yes.
And refuse to move on. I implore you not to let this happen. Now is the time for you to look forward and rediscover love and all of the joys of life. So that's pretty much
that's what the game's about.
What this game really is trying to say, right? Yeah. And it does a really great job of it. Now, unfortunately, this script I'm looking at does not include the side quest in which you go back to Doma with Cyan, and there's a whole side quest there. So we're going to be looking.
I've got the SNES script
pulled up here. So I want to go over that part next because
let's do it.
Cyan is giving this advice, which is really well put. I mean, very well articulated here. Yet he himself is struggling to do the same thing.
He is. The demons of his past continue to haunt him. Yeah.
Right. And so this whole section going back to Doma and kind of going through Cyan's memories is his moment to do exactly what he's imploring Lola to do in this letter. So
it's so great because once this all starts and you realize how Cyan has been on the edge of just utter destruction this whole time and you didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Right? Like we as the player, the characters, nobody in the game had any clue. I feel like this is true with people in life too. Yeah. Like sometimes you'll just realize like, oh my gosh, I had no idea what this person was going through. Yep. And I was next to them the whole time.
Yep.
Right. And like kind of makes you feel a little bad sometimes, but it's like, that's life. That's how people are.
Yeah.
People don't always share everything about them. And especially someone like Cyan who keeps it all inside. Yeah. Right.
And I mean, this goes all the way back to World of Balance too.
Yeah, that's right.
He just left seeing his wife and son die. Well, he didn't see them die. They were already dead when he came in the room. Poisoned at Doma. He hasn't really had any time on screen to process this or whatever. He's just sort of hopped allegiances to the returners and not really said much.
You would assume that he's dealt with it well, a little too well.
Yeah.
Right, given what's happened. But it's like, well, but you don't know what's going on. You don't really know his dreams every night. You don't know what's happening.
Right. So this is the moment where we can kind of go through all of this. So
you go to Doma Castle and you lay down for some quality sleep. And of course, these three kind of demon spirits kind of show up. And in English, they're called Larry, Curly, and Moe, which is the Three Stooges.
The Three Stooges.
So good. In Japanese, they're, Rebu and Sogno and Sueño. Anyways, it's the words for dream in French, Italian, and Spanish.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so those are their names in the Japanese.
I like that a lot.
I like it better than Larry, Curly, and Moe.
Way better. This is okay. Again, this is not like I'd never mean to just dump on Ted Woolsey, but it's just not his way of. That is really different. That lands really differently than turning it into a pop culture reference joke.
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like Woolsey's translations tend to go a little too far with his trying to lighten it up and make it funny. And you can really miss some cool stuff. I would have never guessed that is what those three are meant to represent.
Rebe, Sogno, and Sueño.
They just became stooges in my mind
Me
after
too.
That. I
as
read
soon as
them
you see the name, I'm like, oh, they were written that way.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't necessarily written that way.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. Then you have the three dream stooges, right? So this man's soul is ours. Tonight we'll dine well. And so then you've got like I think the party all kind of wakes up, but Cyan doesn't.
Yes.
And it's like, what's going on with him? Oh no. And we all kind of get sucked into his mind basically.
Yep.
And this is what the Dream Stooges do. They kind of like, I don't know, they create a world through the person's mind that other people can inhabit. And we have to go find them and defeat them, right?
Yep.
Basically. But these are the demons that have been haunting him in his Cyan's dreams I don't know if this is just in Doma Castle, but the dream that is constructed by the 3 Dream Stooges is basically the nightmare that he's been having probably every night for forever.
Yeah,
ever since we've known about his character.
Yep.
So, okay. Now we got to go through, we got to find them all. They won't fight us one-on-one. They keep running away. So we eventually get to the point where they have all gone together, and then I think we fight them all together, right? Mm-hmm. So now we have his wife speaking here, and she's saying, please save my husband, right? Because we see his family in his dreams. Like, they're there.
Right.
And you can go up, and it's obvious what's happening.
Well, you go through the whole Phantom Train again, and
you go back through different places.
Like, there's
the
different
forest.
places, in his memories, right?
So we realize that we're inside of Cyan's soul. But she's saying, my husband continues to torture himself. He failed to defend Doma. The world is slowly dying. And then there's his family, right? So then there's a beast known as Rex Soul, right? That's taking advantage of him.
Yep.
I don't know. Well, it looks about the same in Japanese. Rex Soul is a composite monster made up of wretched spirits who were dispatched in meaningless wars, which is almost all wars, probably. They're wreaking havoc. Then his son says, they're wreaking havoc on Papa. Please save him,
Yeah, right.
So we've got to go do all of this. Then we get some vignettes, some like memories of Cyan's past.
Right.
Like he's teaching his son how to fish.
Yeah, you kind of have to like go to either side of the castle, right? And you see a scene over there.
And you see different things.
And all of this is missable. This is another example of them
be
making a lot of things missable. If like freedom, we're talking about too much freedom, right?
So one of them, he's teaching him how to fish, and his son's like, what happens now? And it's like, well, you just have to wait, son. Be patient. And he's like, what the heck? I don't want to be patient.
I don't
it's like,
like
well,
fishing.
if you're patient, then you'll catch fish. And he's like, oh, okay. And then the son's like, I love fishing. Like he's just trying so hard to be like his father.
Yep.
And then he's fencing. He's becoming a swords person. His dad's kind of helping him out. But then there's this really good scene with his wife.
Yep.
In the chamber, right? And so she is saying, hey, sweetheart, do you love me? And he's like, oh, a soldier doesn't say things like that. And it's really funny. And then he kind of waits a while, and she's just waiting for him. And he doesn't know this, but his son is waiting right outside the door, kind of listening, like really hoping to hear his parents that they love each other. So, kids can be like that sometimes. Yep. And so he says, I loveth thee more than anything. It's so good. And then the son runs in and goes, I heard that, yippee. I loveth you. Papa loves mama. And he's like, oh, Wayne, shut up. So funny.
That's good stuff.
But then Rexol comes in and kind of breaks all of these memories, and we got to fight him, right? Because Rexol is saying, I don't like what you're doing. His soul is mine. And Rexol is basically saying, anybody who I've ever captured their soul like this, they never escape. It's over. Just give up on Cyan. But we don't. And so we end up kicking his butt.
Yep.
And
this is when he kind of...
There you go.
Finally comes to his realization. Right?
Once we beat Rexol, he's saying, thanks be to you. I heard my wife and children calling out to me. Their voices finally gave me the strength and courage to come to grips with my own suffering. And then he sees them again, hears their voices, and he's saying, Elaine, Owain, thank you. And then his son says, you sure are strong, Daddy. And he says, no, I can't. I didn't do anything. I have no honor. And this is where he says, no, you've done more than enough. And I think his wife says, you've done entirely too much, right?
Yep.
And then she says, my beloved will always be together. And then his son says, Papa, we love you.
Yep.
And is that it? That's it. That's their last message to each other,
that's
basically.
Pretty much the dialogue there. But I did really like this a lot. Just because, there can be an assumption made at the end of the Phantom Forest section. That when he sees his son and his wife on the train and they're going away, that he somehow processed that in that moment, and then it's like, no.
Because they sort of said their final goodbye.
That's not how grief works.
Not really. I mean, he put it away.
So I'm glad that they did this, and I think that it was really well done. This kind of whole sequence, where you're going through. It sort of represents us in this dreamlike sort of abstract way, but like the grief that he's been feeling the whole time, that he just hasn't voiced it,
right?
And you really gets that across in a really profound way. So,
and this is good because he says his last word is, "Elaine and Owain live on in my heart. I must leave the past behind. I have much to live for." And this is so good because it's like he's not forgetting them. It's none of that stuff. They still live in his heart, but he's leaving it where it belongs. He's put it in the proper category, and now he can move on to something else. What I love about the scene with him and his wife, though, is that it shows that he does have that inner compassion because, like, I was wondering, is he actually going to say it? Is he going to say, "I loveth thee," or however? Is he going to say, "I love you"? I didn't actually know if he was going to do it or not because he's so, stoic in the modern sense. But he does. And I'm like, hey, he's got it in him. He feels the feelings. He's embarrassed about them, but he has that in him, right? And he can profess his love. So when we come to the world of ruin and he's writing these love letters, he's making these flowers, it's cool to see that in his past, that despite his, wall that he puts up, that there is this tender soul behind that does want to express to others that he does love them. Yeah. He just has this, difficulty doing so.
Yeah. He's been tempered by military conditioning.
Yes, exactly.
And samurai training his whole life.
But then, and you could see it coming out again. Now his family's dead now, but he finds these letters and he's like, it just invigorates something in him where I almost can imagine that he's not writing to Lola, he's writing to his wife.
Yeah, sure.
But he's just sending them to Lola because she's there, But these are things that he wishes he did do for his wife, who he truly did love. Mm-hmm. Very good.
Good stuff. I really, really like this section. So that kind of wraps up Cyan's background and character. Let's go over Gao real quick since we left off on him last time.
I love Gao so much. He's just so funny.
Yeah, I really like his character too. Like he's a really great, what do you call that? Like a foil character.
Yeah.
The character that is used for lightning, tension, and whatnot.
Just kind of like the opposite of everyone else.
Yeah. He's great for that. I think it's just one of those characters that's done the right way. But so they believe that they find his father. There's this kind of like house on the veldt.
Yeah.
Or near the veldt, right?
Yeah.
Kind of old guy. Oh, hello again. Yep, you were tops. And Sabin's like, yeah, that's why we, and he kind of trails off. Age man, quick, fix that chair. Oh, wait a minute. This is
the fixer dude, the old guy.
I was thinking maybe I had gone to that part earlier, but it's
because of the world of ruin, everything kind of looks a little different, but it is the same guy.
It's the same guy.
Yeah,
same guy. So this guy who we mentioned earlier, who was like trying to get you to fix all the stuff in his house
and secretly telling you the number of the clock in Zozo.
Yes, right. That guy, right. Quick, fix that chair. Then you can use it to reach the roof. You don't suppose, can this be Gao's father, says Sabin. Sabin said, or I guess it depends on who's in your party, really, but you don't suppose, I think you do have to have Sabin in your party for this part. I'm trying to remember if you have to or not.
I don't know.
Maybe you don't. Maybe somebody can answer this. It's better that you have, because you'll get more optional dialogue if you bring, I know, Locke and Edgar into the party. But I think Sabin has to be in the party for this part because Sabin was the character that recruited Gao more or less, right? Okay. So that makes sense because Sabin was the one, Cyan was with him, but they were the ones who like found him originally, right? So they've been with him since the beginning.
Nice.
So you don't suppose, Gao, that this could be your father. Gao was like, Sabin, come on, Gao. It's true, right? Father. Yes, this is definitely your father. Gao's father? Ooh, I go.
Yeah, he's
making noises. And let's go tell your father the news. He needs to know that you're his son. Just a minute. We can't go there without you. With you looking like this.
Oh, I
know. Let's go to Jador and give you a makeover. I love this.
I thought it was
because they go buy him like a suit.
They do. They buy him a suit. They comb his hair. They like do this whole thing, right? And they're like, but they're kind of like arguing a little about what he should look like, you know? And like, he should present himself like this. And, it's so funny.
Yeah. So no, God, don't eat with your fingers. They're like trying to teach him how to eat right. Yow, because he was a wild kid. He's like basically Mowgli.
Yeah,
don't say right. Yow when you mean yes. He's like trying to teach him manners and everything.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, so it goes over what different people will say if they're in the party. So these are the optional dialogues depending on who's in the party. Terra would say, how do you like these? Wait, what about these? Oh, I don't know if this is really necessary to go through everyone's. They all say more or less the same thing. They're just trying to fix them up. Edgar says, I got it, a tuxedo, silk hat, and rose in his teeth. I think that's overdoing it just a bit, says
exactly.
Locke. He should have a bandana on his head.
Yeah, exactly.
Edgar says, what's so great about a bandana? Most of the time, I see him tied around dogs at the beach. Locke's, hey, what do you mean by that? I think that's some of the extra
Once
dialogue.
again, talking about how he likes to help animals that are hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That little extra piece of dialogue is again suggesting that that's what Celes found on that bird. That bird might have been injured somewhere, that dove.
Right.
And then Locke tried to help it. Right. So that's cool. Sabin says, okay, Gao, now any father would be glad to have a son like you. They fixed him to look nice. And so they go back. Excuse me, sir. Aged man, who in blazes are you? Oh, the repairman.
So good.
Sir, you had a son, right? You with me? You with me? So I think he's saying that to Gao. Son? Says the aged man. Sabin, right. The truth is he's alive. Come here, Gao. Father, aged man, what's this? What's with this son business? I never had a son. And then
I did have a dream I had a son once.
So I liked this, right?
I did too.
It's a really interesting way of him obviously having felt horrifically guilty all his life, or at least as old as Gao is supposed to be, I guess, of abandoning
he's
this
like
kid.
13 or something.
Right. So more than a decade of guilt surrounding this.
Yeah.
And he's not willing to straight up confess or admit.
No.
But he also can't let them leave without more or less letting them know that, yes, you're right about this. And the conflict happening in the character is what I feel really comes out in this. But now that you mention it, I once had a terrible dream. In it, a demon child was born.
Demon child.
I grabbed the creature and rushed off to the veldt with it.
Now, some context here. We learned this at the bar when that girl's hitting on Cyan. If you talk to one of the characters in the bottom right, he brings up that there was a woman who died in childbirth. And then the husband lost it and took it out on the kid. And then, put the kid away somewhere and refused to be a father, right? That person's referring to Ga and to this situation.
Right. It was crying like crazy when I arrived on the veldt.
Oh, and that's why he called it a demon.
Yeah.
Because it killed his wife.
Right. Sabin says, but sir, an aged man, I left the child there, and without looking back, I turned and started to run. Sabin says, I'm trying to tell you. And the aged man says, suddenly, because Sabin is assuming, I think, that he's just crazy like he always is, and he's just not listening.
But he's telling us
actually
irrelevant.
is. Yeah. He's mentally here now for this moment, right? Suddenly the crying stopped. I turned around and saw a frightful monster, hideous, still gives me the shakes. Sabin says, I give up. And then the aged man says, but you, young man, your parents must be proud of you. He's saying this to Gao. I still have dreams of that demon child. Frightening. Why, you old, he's completely lost his mind. God, I'm going to clobber him. And God jumps in the way and doesn't let him hurt him, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Father alive, happy.
Right. As they leave the room, he's like, because at first they're like, oh no, he's not going to be happy. That didn't go well. The father didn't accept him and all this. But God is like, I have a dad and I know who he is and I'm happy,
Yeah. Let's see. It looks like there's some more text here that I didn't get because I never went back and talked to the aged man again.
I don't think I did either.
So if you go back in, he says, hey, say, is everything fixed yet?
Of course.
Repairman at last. Oh, no, I was wondering if you knew anything about Emperor Gastel's map. He says, map? Everyone's asking about that map. Pardon? A little while ago, some guy wearing a bandana asked for the... Oh, this is a
This leads us to
Locke.
the Star Mountain.
Yeah.
Valley.
Guy wearing a bandana asked for the map, so I told him. Where is it? It's where the mountains form a star shape. You should have just come out and ask me. No need to be shy. Got it? Where the mountains form a star shape. So
I got this same thing, but from a different place. I got it from
a different NPC.
The dude, the art collector dude, and his picture of the Emperor.
Oh.
Anyways, there's different ways you can get that same note, clue. I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, that's Gau's background. Gao.
Yep.
Okay. So let's see here. Let me switch over to Mobliz. Let's do Mobliz next, because Mobliz is Terra.
Somebody asked the question whether or not Cyan actually says "I love you" in the Japanese. And he does. He does. He says "Aishiteru de gozaru." So he does say "I love you" the way that you would say "I love you" in Japan.
Nice. Okay, so Mobliz is the town where Terra is at. This is where you recruit Terra. So you come in, people are kind of screaming, someone's coming. You're going to have to fight your way in here. We can fight too, you know. Wait, Terra, Mama, are these people your friends? So
all the kids.
Basically, it's revealed that Terra sort of took in all these foster kids or orphans from the town of Mobliz after it was attacked by Kefka's Light of Judgment. Like almost all the adults in the town died, and there's all these kids left without parents. And Terra kind of comes into this place, and she ends up being the foster mother for this whole community of kids, right? And I really, really liked this as sort of a destination for her character arc, because as much as she tried all through the World of Balance section of the game to find a place where she belongs, like she never really found that. Of course, she wasn't going to find that with Gestalt and the Empire.
Oh, right.
But even with the Returners, it just never really clicked. She always felt out of place. She always didn't really know her place. She didn't feel like she could reciprocate feelings that these other characters had that made her feel like she wasn't even human. Then she found out she's technically not even really human.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know if I belong here or with the Espers. And then she tries to go talk to the Espers, and they like freak out and go crazy, and like she like can't really communicate with them. She had like no place in the whole world. Yeah. And then this, destruction happens, and she finds it. She finds a place with these children. And I really, really like that as like a destination for her character. And it changes her in a way that's kind of different from the other characters, because you're recruiting the other characters, say like Setzer, and it's like, we'll never get that old world back. There's kind of a despair about what they lost in the old world, where Terra is different because she found something in this world.
Well, yeah, that's
and
right.
So she is not as ready to fight or to leave the town because she found what she was looking for.
That's a good point. Yeah, wow.
And so it's hard to tear her away from it.
That's true, yeah.
Because she found it finally.
And it's a lot. It's like 12 kids that all need her.
Yeah.
Because they're just kids. They need somebody to help them survive.
Yeah. And so, the whole scenario here is trying to get Terra to like rejoin you. And at first she won't do it. And you can leave Mobliz, and that's what I did. And you go to other towns and stuff, and it's not till you return and fight a second time this boss here.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of other characters, and there's just good stuff here. So let's go through some of the dialogue. So Terra says, I'm so glad to see that you're safe. I wanted to see you again. They say, Terra, come with us. There's no saving this world unless we defeat Kefka once and for all. She says, I know, but I can't fight anymore. The very day the world collapsed, Kefka turned his light of judgment on this village. The adults, these kids' parents, they all died trying to protect their children.
Yeah.
This is the village. This is a village of children now. They clung to me from the moment I arrived. They needed me. And then we have these two other characters, Dwayne and Catherine. Dwayne says, you can't take Terra from us. Now, I should have looked this up. I kind of assumed that these were older teenage characters, not adults. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Whether they're adult, I don't know their age. I couldn't tell you.
Maybe I should look that up real
I
quick.
kind of assumed that they were just kids.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues with sprite art. They do have a generic child boy, child male, child female like sprite that just duplicates, Yeah. But these characters looked a little different, but it was really hard for me to gauge how old they were until later on it turns out Dwayne gets Katarine pregnant. And then it's like, okay, they're older.
They're older.
Just little kids, I guess.
I assumed that they were probably like, young adult age, like 18, 19, something like this.
Sure.
And that Terra would be the oldest among them at age 21 or whatever she is.
Yeah.
But that they were like older teenagers. But I guess I never really looked that up. Let's see if people are saying anything here about it. Okay, so good comment here from Apoma. Some NPC talks about this. They're 16 and in love in the world of balance. So they're like 17. Oh, we got a screenshot here of the
nice
the moment in which you talk to them in the world of balance. So,
cool.
Okay, so yeah, they're like 17 years old. So anyway, there's like a bunch of little kids. There's Terra, and then there's this Dwayne and Katarine, which are like teenagers, like older teenagers, right?
Yeah.
So Dwayne comes in. You can't take Terra from us. Katarine says, Dwayne, please forgive him. It's just if we lose Terra, we lose the only thing that's holding this village together. Terra says, I don't know why these kids need me, and it's not like there's anything forcing me to protect them. It's just the strangest feeling. But once that feeling took root inside me, I lost the strength to keep on fighting.
Very interesting.
Now, she had talked about with Leo and in the past how she doesn't have strong emotions.
Right.
And now she's saying that sprouted, that actually began to bloom in her, this maternal instinct when she happened upon this town. So everything she was looking for in terms of a home, a family, a place to belong, and like the emotions, love that she felt like she was missing, they all came together for her here after the world had been ruined, right? I feel like I'm on the verge of understanding something important. It's hard to describe, but the harder I look for the answer, the more I lose my strength to fight. Katarine says, Terra is the glue that holds this village together. With her here, we're somehow able to keep going. And then, help! Humbaba's coming. He was called something else in the
Fun Baba, Phun, Fun Baba.
Yeah. He is coming. So there's this monster that sort of will come around and terrorize them, and they hide away, and then it passes, kind of a thing.
Humbaba is from Gilgamesh. So it's one of the giants that Gilgamesh kills in a forest. It's really good. That part of the Gilgamesh story is actually kind of funny, but it's really good.
So Terra says, Humbaba, the ancient monster released from the depths of the earth by the cataclysm. I have to protect the village. Right. So we talked about this too.
We talked about this last
Demons emerged in the destruction, and that's why there's more monsters in the world now, or more demonic-like monsters than there were before. This is one of them. Humbaba. Terra says, I guess I really don't have the strength to fight anymore. Mama, are you okay? It's because I think she morphs and she goes out and tries to face it.
So if you're able to beat Humbaba at first or something, I don't know. But the second time I fought, it was the second time I fought Humbaba, that after defeating it, then Terra comes out and then she transforms. And then she's like,
it happens both times, but the first time she like loses, and then we step in and like fight it and
that's true.
Send it away.
Yes, that's how that goes.
The second time we come back, we're all successful at defeating it. Yeah. But the first time, she's talked about having lost her will to fight, her strength to fight. Yeah. I guess I really don't have the strength to fight anymore. Mom, are you okay? I'm staying here. I wouldn't be any help to you now, and the children need me. Yeah, but Terra, you can't stay here. Maybe after a little more time has passed, I need to understand what's happening to me. Thanks for scaring Humbaba away. This fell off the chain around his neck. Here, you can have it. So that's the first time you go there. She's just... and I really, really like this. I really like this because it feels so kind of human and true. She was the strongest of our party story-wise, maybe not like mechanics-wise, but story-wise, her half-Esper lineage made her by far the strongest, most powerful character in our party. And now that she found the love she was looking for, she's kind of lost that a little bit. That desperation, that fighting for something because she feels like she found it. And now she needs to find that sort of spark or that will to fight again, right? So you return later. Dwayne, I don't know what to do. Katharine's pregnant. Terra, oh, you're back. Katharine's going to have a baby. Katarine, I'm so happy that I'm going to have a child, but when I told Dwayne, he turned cold all of a sudden.
Right.
17-year-old guy learning that he's going to be a father. It's not easy.
Yep.
But harder, I would say, on her. On Katarine, of course.
Yeah, poor Dwayne, huh?
Yeah, I know, right? So he says, Katarine, I'm sorry. I just didn't know how to handle all of this. I acted like an idiot, but everything's okay now. So he's taking his responsibility now.
Yep.
Please come back home with me. Hubaba is headed this way again.
Yeah, the room starts shaking. You start hearing the footsteps.
Yeah, right. Terra, please protect this village. I don't have the strength to fight. So you go out there and fight him.
Yep.
And this time, he's too much for us. And Terra has to come in.
That's right. That's when she comes out.
Terra joins the group in battle.
And she turns into her Esper form.
Yeah, the morphs into the Esper form. Yep.
So she does good work, right?
Yeah.
But afterwards, she stays in that form for a while. And she she doesn't speak well. She's not very articulate.
And the kids, it's another monster.
Yes.
It's scary. I'm afraid. Yes.
Well,
they're afraid of her.
Yeah.
And
was that the kids talking or was that her?
No, I think it's
the kids.
The kids are saying it.
Okay,
and,
gotcha.
And then, oh, Mama, it's you, isn't it? So they recognize her as, I can tell. Huh, Mama Terra, and they're all fine with it. So I think this moment is meant to be like, oh, if they really knew what I was, they'd reject me. But no, the children, they're at first kind of afraid, but then...
Of course, yeah.
Then, when they realize who she is...
one girl shows up and says, wait, this is Terra. Oh, yay, Terra. And then all the other kids like, really? Oh, you're right. And then they all kind of gather around her in this like group hug kind of thing. Yeah. And she realizes that, that they love her for her, not just her appearance.
Yeah, and there's a part of me that also thinks that maybe she was holding back in previous fights because she didn't want to reveal her Esper monster form.
I think that's right.
Because she didn't want the family that accepted her to then reject her. That's what she was afraid of doing.
You're not a human. Ooh, you're not a real mom.
You can't really be. And so when they accept her, that's when she says, oh, okay, I'll fight. Yeah. I think I finally understand the feeling that's been growing inside me. It must be love. I have to fight to protect the people I love and to make the world a safe place for new lives.
Yes, well, this is so good. Then she says, well, in the SNES version, she says, we must fight for the future. We must fight for those who've not been born yet. Mm-hmm. That's so good because Katarina is pregnant. Right?
Yes,
Katarine.
Right.
And like it's so good. It's just a really good analogy, right? Where she's speaking of like, we have to fight for the future, right? The people who don't even exist yet, but they will in the future.
Yeah.
And there will be millions of them, right? But you have the example of it is Katarine right there, right? Where it's like there's the gestation of like new life that's happening. And if it's fostered well, it can become, this whole new thing. Mm-hmm. But if it's not taken care of, then it, won't end up well. Yeah. And so you've got the little microcosm of just Katarine and then the macrocosm of, what our characters are doing in the world.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's great stuff. And so... Dwayne, keep Katarine and your baby safe. Children, Mama has to go away for a while to make the world a safer place for you to live in.
There you go.
But I promise I'll be back as soon as I can. Mama, I'm not going to cry. Me either. I'll be good. Don't forget, you promised. And then she says, thank you. You all helped me understand what it means to love. I'll fight. I'll make this world a place where life can flourish and children can grow up in peace. Perfect. So that's where she finds her will to fight. Let's see. So let's not do Phoenix Cave yet. Let's do... Mog?
All right.
Well, no. Well, that one's
it's
really,
short.
really
it's
short.
Just,
You just go into the Narsh caves.
Yeah, go back to Narsh.
And he's just standing there in his house.
Like, Mog, you're alive.
You go talk to him, and he joins you. There's not really a lot to it. I don't know. Yeah. Did you take any notes on that?
No, I don't think so. Here, let me go.
Let's see, because I'm trying to get to... And then...
This is my note.
Okay.
Mog, ! That's my note. And then I say Narsh, lots of spirits.
Yeah.
I wrote that as well.
So there's not really much to say there. And then he gives you a tip for a new character you can recruit.
Oh, and it's the
Umaru.
Yeah.
Umaru, the Yeti. character. So he's like, oh, my friend or whatever. We can go like find him. So that's a new character. I'm trying to think of what to say about the optional characters, like the two Gogo and Umaru. Like, I admit freely that I basically never use these characters.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, in my head, I don't really consider them characters, like main characters of this game, because
like kind of
first of all,
characters.
You only get them at the very end of the game in the World of Ruin, so they don't really have a lot
like story
in relation to the story or stakes or anything. They're just kind of characters. But the other thing that, like, as cool as some of their abilities can be, they can't equip espers, and so it's like for that reason alone. I mean, Gogo can be cool because he can mimic. He's the mimic character, the class. So like if you're doing bum rush with Sabin or something, he can mimic that, and that's pretty great. I mean, like he can be good in that role, but like at this point, you've invested so much time growing the characters by equipping espers that it just seems like a missed opportunity to have two characters that can't equip espers at all. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm just not going to use you.
Yeah.
So I never have used them, but maybe we should just really quickly like read like character profiles
just
for them,
to give
just
them a
to
few
see
minutes of
if there's anything about them that I've never looked at before. Let's see. Let's go to his like. So it says, while exploring the Triangle Island, the returners were swallowed by a large worm called a Zone Eater. Oh, yeah, that's right. You got to go inside the Zone Eater to go.
And it drops you into like cool. a cave.
They awoke in the Zone Eater's belly, a large underground cave system. In the back of the cave, they found Gogo, who offered to mimic them, but first asked what they were doing. The party explained their quest to defeat Kefka and save the world, and Gogo decided to join them and mimic them saving the world. There is a pretty fun moment with this character at the end of the game after you defeated and it's kind of showing each character as they're like leaving the tower.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is like, okay, you have to do everything that Celes does. You have to mimic her exactly in order for like the path to open up. They have I feel like this is kind of a callback to this moment in FS7 in the reactor when all three of you have to push the button at exactly the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's you got to like time it exactly right and push the same button. So it's the same idea. Gogo and Celes have to like push the buttons at the same time to get the path to open for the other characters to come through. But he's a mimic, so he can like do it perfectly.
It's like easy, yeah.
So that's kind of fun, I guess. As the party fled Kefka's tower after Kefka's death, a path collapsed and Setzer and Edgar were trapped while Gogo and Celes were thrown forward to parallel sides of the room. Celes tried to move a part of the floor to free them, but the switches had to be operated simultaneously. Gogo mimicked Celes perfectly and pressed the switches to free them. That's it. That's Gogo's character. That's basically the whole thing. Gogo speaks only a few lines of dialogue when met. Gogo dislikes how long they have been idle without mimicking anyone. Oh, they're referring to Gogo as they. When the party explains they are seeking to save the world, Gogo is surprised. Declares almost dismissively that if it were the party's purpose, they shall mimic them and save the world too. I don't know. There's not really much going on with that character. Let's try Umaru.
Let's see, man.
All I really know about Umaru is that he's
like a Yeti.
He's Mog's friend.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Umaru is a large Yeti covered in fur, but for his hands, feet, and face. The color of his skin and fur have vary between white, blue, and purple in different appearances and artworks. That's it. Umaru is capable and limited of speech, but mostly communicates with grunts and groans. He's able to craft and use crude weapons and armor, and his cave is decorated by bone carving. That's why when you go to his section, there's like a skull and bones at the end. Right. Makeshift carpet. Umaru obeys the orders of Mog after Mog asserts himself as Umaru's boss. That I did like. He's like, I'm your boss. You got to do what I say. You got to come with us.
That's right. That was good.
He has a deep loyalty to Mog and the party by proxy. According to Hironobu Sakaguchi, Umaru has a strong sense of honor and feels like he owes a debt to Mog because Mog shared some food with him when he had collapsed from exhaustion. So that's it.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's those characters. No need to talk about them any further. I don't think. I don't think there's really much else to really say about them. So we've done everybody except who we've missed.
I have Relm.
Relm. Yes, we need to go to Relm and Strago next.
So I believe this is in Jidur.
Yes, Jidur.
Right? So when you go to Jidur, there's that rich dude who like collects pictures and paintings. Everyone's talking about how, there's a new painting of Emperor Gestal that he didn't like, and so this guy purchased it. And so he's got, his gallery, and you walk around in the house and what is it? It's either somebody tells you this or you just kind of intuit this. But as you're in the house, it's totally haunted, right? You're starting to hear voices and you like try to go one place and the voices like scare you away or whatever. As soon as you are able to make it into the place with all the paintings, you look at the paintings and it's like every other one or two all of a sudden becomes like an enemy. Like it comes to life and jumps out at you.
Dude, there was one that I thought was so cool. Like imagery-wise, I feel like this could be a really interesting, almost horror-esque sort of visual for a movie or something. But like, there's that one painting with the chair, and then all of a sudden you just like, you walk through it and you sit in the chair and it's just like someone comes up behind and like initiates a battle.
Right.
I was just like, dude, that's sweet, actually.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
That's really cool.
So eventually you get to the very end of the whole dungeon, and there's the guy himself. He's very large, kind of reminiscent of Jabba the Hutt a little bit.
Yeah, the
just kind of
Owzer,
sitting down.
Owzer's mansion. Yeah,
just kind of sitting down, and he's just like, help me, something's gone wrong. But Relm is painting this like really cool painting up there, and he's just like, this painting's the most important thing in the world to me. It's going to be so beautiful. Yep. But of course, it's Relm's the one painting it, and so it comes to life and attacks you. But the name of this is Chadarnuk, something like that. It's a goddess who becomes a demon. So the painting is really cool. So it's like a woman who is very conveniently covered in certain, aspects. And Relm is the one painting it, but of course she steps aside. We end up having to fight the whole thing. And as soon as we were able to defeat the monster without destroying the painting, I guess, right? And so it's almost done, but it's not totally done. And so that's where, that guy's like super happy because we were able to defeat the monster, preserve the painting. And I don't know what else to say about that other than the idea of a goddess becoming a demon is something that just keeps happening throughout this game up until the end. And it does remind me a lot of Final Fantasy X with the, anima?
Yeah, and the anima, yeah.
So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
And you see like almost the persona, the facade of a goddess that has this like demonic, power to it as well. Very interesting.
Yep. So then you have to recruit her in order to get Strago. Because if you go try to get him, otherwise he won't.
No.
He's like among the
cult.
The fanatics, the cult of Kefka, right?
Yeah. He's just
marching around with them.
It's so funny, man. I love it. So the idea is that they brainwash people or whatever. But somebody had mentioned this. I can't remember exactly who it was, but they'd mentioned that of the people who get... who are part of the cult of Kefka, that if a loved one calls out their name, then
they'll be shaken from the trance.
Yeah, that's the only way to bring them back.
Yep.
Right? And so it's so funny because when we take Relm and we go up to the tower, then Relm doesn't really call his actual name. She says like old man, grandpa, like old man, something like that. Yeah. And that's what shakes him out of it. And he's like, Relm, Relm. And he runs all the way up. And I thought it was so good that he was just like marching with them, kind of like Monty Python with the Jesu Domine. It's so good. So, she's able to get him out there. I like the idea of like somebody calls your name and you are brought back to like reality, something like that. I feel like it's interesting.
And I like that she's her normal sort of, sassy self about it, right? Like knock it off or whatever.
Hey, knock it off, dude.
Stop it. Like, he's like, oh,
so funny.
He comes back. So I think that covers everyone except for Locke and Shadow.
Yeah, Shadow, I was going to say.
So let's do Shadow, and let's also do Shadow's flashbacks. So basically, this depends on whether or not you waited for Shadow at the end of the World of Balance sequence. If you didn't, then he's just dead and you don't find him anymore.
Right.
And you would find Relm in this cave
would be here
instead.
Yeah.
Right. But if you waited for him, he's there, like knocked out, and you get attacked by like a dragon or something like that. And then there's like a zombie version of the dragon. Anyways, you take him to a town, I think, and he rests, but like he doesn't really join you at this point.
No,
you then have to go to the Colosseum.
Yes, that's where, and you have to fight him.
Fight him there, and then he joins with you.
He's not that hard, luckily.
No.
He was the first person I faced in the Colosseum.
Yeah.
Because I didn't go there till after this. But there's also a time where when we find Shadow, where he is referred to as a she.
Oh.
Right? And it's like, oh, Shadow's here. Oh, she must have fainted or something like that. And I was like, wait a second, because you don't know much about these pixel dots on the screen. I'm like, did I miss something?
No, I think that's just
it's a typo because of the scenario where Relm could be found in Shadow's
Oh,
place.
You're right.
And they just didn't change the text. They
yeah.
just applied the same text
text
to the different scenario.
That makes sense.
Right?
That makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, a little typo there.
So let's go through his flashbacks. I think we did the first dream, right? The one that's like really freaky, and it's like, and like this guy's like coming at him in the darkness.
And it's all dark. Yeah, that one's creepy.
And he calls him Clyde.
Yeah,
Clyde, I'm done for. Find me, please, Clyde. Right?
And it's Baram talking.
Yeah, Baram. So the second dream, Baram says, "Yahoo, we did it, Clyde." Clyde says, 1,000,000 GP. What a blast! I love this. So they, came up with a lot of money.
Yep.
Baram, guess it's time to change our name. Clyde says, our name? Baram, we need something more appropriate, such as Shadow. Not bad, huh? Clyde says, great train robbers of the century, Shadow. So this is how he came up with the alias of Shadow, I guess. He and his buddy, Baram. It's pretty cool that they made him like a thief character, right? Because classically in Final Fantasy, a thief job class sort of upgrades to the ninja.
Oh,
job
sure.
class.
No,
So
that
it's
makes
like
sense.
he started as a thief, and now he's in his master
That's
class.
Cool. That's cool.
That's kind of
cool.
a nice throwback there.
I like that.
All right, so the third dream, Clyde says, open your eyes. Baram, I'm scared. Hack, cough. Is this my blood? You're going to be okay.
Right, the whole thing went wrong, right, is the idea.
Everything
went wrong, and now it's Clyde. It's Baram who's about to die.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Baram says, I've let you down. I'm sorry. Clyde, save your strength. We're almost to the town. Baram, you don't have to pretend. I know I've lost too much blood. I'm going to slow you down. But you want to get caught? Before you go, you have to use your knife, says Baram. Clyde says, wait, what? Baram, think what they'll do to me if I get caught. I don't want to go through that. Do me this favor. So he's asking Clyde to like finish him.
Yep.
Yeah, like and end his pain. Are you shaking? I can't believe it. You're acting like a coward. Come on, you weakling. Grab a knife and... I can't. Clyde, I'm sorry. Clyde, how dare... And he leaves him.
And he runs away. Yep, he runs.
Clyde, how dare you? So he leaves him there to die / get caught and whatever that would entail consequences-wise. And just abandoned him there. And so that's why he feels so guilty and why that first dream sequence was so... kind of scary.
Also,
right?
why the only reason he could really move forward was by killing his own emotions.
Yep.
As he brings up with Terra. He says, there are those who have like killed their own ability to feel anything. Don't become like that. He's obviously referring to himself, and this is why, right? He couldn't really, he can't think about that. He can't think about his own past. It's too painful.
Yeah. Okay, so remind me what happens.
Okay, well, my note here. In his dream, we are outside of Strago's house. Shadow is leaving and wants his dog to stay with someone so that person can live in a peaceful world. And the dog goes up to
this is why the
Strago's
dog likes
house.
Relm.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
okay, that's right.
And Shadow leaves, but I think the dog ends up following him anyways.
Yeah, right.
But he was trying to get the dog to stay and to watch over Relm.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And there's a reason for that. We may as well talk about it because the game's over.
Right.
But I didn't. So I read this afterwards. I did not get this in the game.
Yeah, I think that's pretty normal.
Okay. I'm like, okay, because I read so because after the game, I'm like, okay, let's go back through everyone's character profiles. I'm like, Relm's father is Shadow.
Yes.
I don't like. I get it. I'm like, oh yeah, like kind of.
It's very. Very vague.
Very vague. Yes, very vague.
You're not. It's not a mistake, or like you're not paying attention if you didn't pick this up. But yes, That's what that is supposed to be saying, I guess.
It's very interesting. They didn't elaborate. I don't know. Is it for sure? I mean, this seems pretty relevant.
That seems to
arena.
be the collective understanding.
Okay, but it's never explicitly stated.
I mean, I haven't read an interview or anything like that. Maybe
okay.
somebody here has and can pull it up. But I mean, that's the general understanding, is that that's why Interceptor is so warm to Relm.
Well, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
The genes, the smell, we're similar people, right? It's all part of a family. But does Shadow not remember Relm? Or like when Shadow meets Relm again, he's like, the dog bites, and then the dog goes with Relm into the bedroom, and Shadow's like, he's like confused. Like he doesn't.
Right.
Does Shadow
Is he acting or does he really know?
That Relm is his daughter?
We've got some quotes here. Shadow and Relm's relationship has officially been confirmed in developer interviews in 1995.
Okay.
The developers considered having a scene in a bar, presumably in Thamasa, where Strago and Shadow reveal his identity. The dialogue was supposed to be as follows. Oh, so this was like cut
So
or
it
something.
was cut.
So Strago says, I have one request. Show me your face. Even if you are him, I have no intention of wasting time trying to talk you into staying. I just want to know for Relm's sake. Shadow doesn't, but then he takes off his mask and shows Strago his face. However, his back is turned so that the player can't see. Strago says, thank you, Shadow. Come, let's have a drink. So that seems to be a scene that was cut.
Okay, because the only confusing thing is how come Shadow is not reacting at all when in the presence of Relm, and seems kind of confused as to why his dog is so good with Relm.
Right. He also mentions that this was from a V-jump issue in Japanese, and so since he doesn't know Japanese, he can't confirm that that's in the interview.
Okay.
But that's
we'll
obviously
trust
somebody online has said that that's what it says. So.
Now, anybody else playing this game, before reading about that, did anybody else playing this game in the comments section, could you tell this relationship? There are hints. It's there. I see how it's possible.
Sure.
I just would guess that 99% of people probably didn't not
pick up on it.
Even think of that.
Yeah. All right. So I think that does it for everybody, but...
Oh, does it?
Locke.
I think so.
Locke is in the Phoenix Cave.
Oh, yeah. And Locke... Okay, so it's... I actually... It takes a long time to get Locke.
A long time. It's a long dungeon.
I was like, if there... I can't remember... I hadn't played this game in a long time, but... If this ends up just being a little magicite spell or like a dragon or one of the things that sometimes...
one of them dragons,
I am really not going to be happy. I didn't realize it was Locke, and I was like, this is taking so long. I got to do the freaking podcast. I was actually getting kind of upset at this part of the game. There's not a ton of story happening. There's a lot of fighting, lots of battles, lots of menus. I keep having to every 7 or 8 battles, I'm pausing, going back to my menu, reallocate everything.
That is
I'm staying intense every 20 minutes,
One thing about FF6's gameplay that can be very tedious, because not only does it usually but it depends on how you're playing, but you're swapping around a lot of gear. Yeah. You're swapping around a lot of magicite.
You've got to kind of keep it all in your mind as you're playing. Too.
Yeah, and you're trying to keep track of when level ups are coming up, and
I gotta be OP. I can't not do it. I can't do it. Once you know how to do it, I have to do it correctly.
Right.
But it is a bit tedious.
It can be really tedious in that way. Yeah. I wish that there was a way that they could sort of streamline some of these things to make it quicker to do swapping or maybe in some future HD 2D Final Fantasy VI remake, they could find a way to make some quality of life improvements around that specifically. One thing they did add to the Pixel Remaster version, though, which is pretty cool, is, with Cyan's abilities, you have to sit there and wait.
Yeah.
So what they've done now is you can just select the one you want, and then it'll move you to another character so you can keep selecting.
And then he'll just do it as it comes. Oh, that's
the time needed, and then he'll just do the attack.
That's cool.
So that's
same concept, just more efficient.
They need to do that with
100 times
gear and swapping espers and that kind of thing. That's the sort of quality of life update I feel like those mechanics need. But, so yeah, I agree. And it's actually one of the reasons, and this is something I'll go over probably in much greater detail in a future Chrono Trigger podcast series.
Ooh, it's happening, people.
It's part of many reasons, but one major reason why I like Chrono Trigger more than FF6. I think it's the superior game because it is. I have never played an RPG, this style of RPG, traditional RPG, where at the end of the game I wasn't fatigued by its battle system. Like, okay, I'm done. Yeah. I've seen this enemy grouping 700 times now. Right. I'm done. Yeah. And it's why I love in a lot of the new releases of Final Fantasy games, they give you the opportunity to turn random battles off. Like in the new releases of FF8, FF7, FF9, and in the pixel remasters that they're releasing on console here this next week.
Oh, and
they're going to give you the ability to turn off random encounters. And so I love that, and also speed up the game, so you can speed battles up and things like that if you're trying to grind or whatever. Right. And so they're addressing the fact that it's a very true thing for many people play.
Yeah.
These games get really, really repetitive and tedious towards the end. It's like at the beginning, I'm always like way into it. Yeah, and then as it goes and as it goes and as it goes, it's almost always without fail in the final dungeons, the final couple dungeons, I'm like, all right, dude, I'm done with
just
fighting
stretching
now.
The hours of the game.
I just want to see the end of the game.
Yeah.
Right? Or I just want to fight the boss. I'm just interested in the boss at this point. Right. I don't care about these random enemies anymore. And Chrono Trigger is the one game of this style that I never really feel that way. And it's because you encounter them and then they go away. There's not random encounters in the game.
Yeah.
They have like a set number of encounters and they pace it
better
perfectly.
And that way, if you do turn and leave, you're not re-encountering those enemies again on your way back out. That's the only reason I didn't turn and leave was because I was like, but I'm going to have to, it took me an hour up to this point. It'll take another hour going all the way back.
Well, I do think in Chrono Trigger, if you leave a screen and come back, the enemies do respawn.
So in each room.
But
gotcha.
Still, the point is that you're not going to fight, maybe 12 battles on this screen as you, whoops, I missed that spot. I want to go back and check over here and see if there's a hidden passage or
that's
if
good.
There's a treasure chest.
That keeps me from exploring sometimes.
Right.
Just knowing that it'll take me 20 minutes to go 6 inches on my screen. It'll take about 20 minutes there and back.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what it kills for me is the exploration of dungeons. Like, because there's a part of me that's just like, I'm getting tired of this, and if I try to go over there, I'm just going to get in more battles, and I just want to get through the screen. Anyway, the point is, it's one of many reasons why Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time and not Final Fantasy VI or not Final Fantasy VII or something like that, right?
But I have to tell you, I was shocked when it was Locke at the end of this dungeon. Yep. I was so sure that this was extra game content that I did not need to be doing, but because got to do the podcast, and of course, I procrastinate, so it was like, right before I'm having to record, and I'm like, this is taking so long, and it was Locke, and I was like, I almost like gasped, and I was like, oh shoot, like, super important character, very good, I'm glad I did this.
Right.
Oh man, it was so funny.
Yep. So anyways, it's a very long cave, but at the end of it, you get like 3 text boxes of dialogue to get Locke here.
Yeah.
Locke, and he says, "You're all safe. Behold, the legendary treasure that can undo death itself."
Yeah. Ooh.
Is that magicite? So this is the thing he's been looking for all these years, right?
Yeah.
It is. Legend has it that the phoenix turned itself to stone ages ago. It seemed the story was true, but now it's filled with cracks. I don't know if it still has the strength to perform miracles. Rachel, I failed her. I broke my promise and lost the only thing that was real to me. So until I do what I said I would do, until I restore my honor, I'm nothing but a no-good liar. So
and
you're
this
headed
is
to
Celeste. Yeah, as he's saying this, Celeste is listening, and she's kind of like, okay, I got you. Dead girl. I can't compete with little Miss Dead Girl over your heart. So, how valuable am I? Like, you're worthless. You think you're worthless. Well, I'm pretty worthless too.
Yeah.
This is so funny. I'm reading my notes now for this part. I wrote down, "Oh my gosh, this takes forever. I don't have time for this." my very next note, Locke. I was gonna leave. Wow. Okay. But anyways, I love how it just takes you to Kolingen.
Yes.
Right? Like,
you don't have to walk out.
You don't have to leave. You don't have to do anything, right? It's just, boom, you're there, and you see the cutscene, right?
Yep.
You see the Phoenix being used on Rachel, and the idea that the Phoenix was damaged, right? This is not a complete resurrection, right? Rachel basically can only be sentient again for like a minute, and then she leaves, right? Yeah. And it's not clear to me whether she purposefully willed herself to leave so that Locke could continue, or if the magicite just doesn't work well and she's just going to leave anyways. It seemed kind of like maybe she was giving up her own life, just being like, I appreciate it, I'm going to tell you the things, but honestly, people don't live forever, and you have a whole new life to live, and I lived mine. Yep. Right, so I'm out. I can't tell which of those is necessarily true, but they're both really good. And basically, her message to him is, Locke, with you, I was happy. That's the whole thing. So she says, you must now cast off the anguish you've been harboring inside for so long. Today, I set your heart free.
Yep.
And that's all that Locke really needed. Like, this whole thing has, like, consumed his life for so long. He identifies as a treasure hunter because he's trying to resuscitate this woman. And it has been the case for like years of his life. This has been years and years and years. He has no identity now, right? Like after this happens, it's like, boom, he is free from his whole past basically.
Yep.
And he can now go do whatever he wants. And it's like, gosh, what do you do now? All right, go kill Kefka, I guess. But like, he's never really experienced this kind of freedom before. He's always been weighed down by something else that he felt like he made a mistake in his past and that he's had to correct now for so long.
Well, another example of the same thing we were just talking about with Cyan and every other character who has a past trauma that keeps them sort of locked in their past, right? Like unable to move on from something.
Locked.
There you go. But let's read that dialogue again from Rachel. I have to go now, but thank you so much for all the happiness you've given me. Please let go of all the chains that bind your heart. I release you. Give your love to the one who now dwells within your heart. Love her as you loved me.
That was good.
Phoenix, be reborn and give your power to Locke. So
that's what made me think that she gave up her own life for Locke. You know?
Yeah. So like it's like he was sort of locked to her because of his guilt. I failed her, all this stuff.
Right.
And she releases him from that burden or that responsibility. Like, it was not your fault. I release you from that guilt. Like, go be with the one who's alive now. Move on. So he finally moves on. Now, that being said, I don't know how I would feel if I was Celes. and the person I liked had to be told by the dead ex.
No,
I'd be like, no, okay, I'm your seconds here, like sloppy seconds. I don't know if I could help but feel that way.
I know, I wouldn't either.
But
it's like the best situation would be because nobody gets, this isn't a thing that happens, right? This isn't.
This scenario doesn't happen in real life.
So what the best thing for Locke would have been that he overcomes her on his own without her literally having to bring her back to tell him the thing that is anyways, but it's a game, you got to do stuff like this. But the better message would be that whether or not you were able to adequately say goodbye to your loved one before they passed, you do have an obligation to them and to yourself to not allow that to weigh your life down for years and years and years. And I think that's a good message. That's a powerful message.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This game seems to give the impression that Locke was unable to unless he heard that voice resurrected from the past telling him to move on. Then he can move on. Yeah. But it's like you don't have to have that voice
to get your closure.
I say that, people who are really attached, I understand that can be really hard. But, maybe try to find it within yourself.
Yeah.
And just know that if you really love that person, if that person really loved you, that they would have said this, whether they can or not now.
Yes.
This is something they would likely have told you if they really loved you. And so you can just be at peace, and you don't have to hold on to the past like this, waiting for that otherworldly manifestation to then pull you out.
Yeah. We talked about this, I think, in a lot more detail in our Jacob's Ladder. Analysis,
which
is
me a lot of
on Patreon and Subscribestar. It will eventually go live on the channel, but it's going to be a few months out. But that's a great movie that examines this exact thing about attachments and how your attachments, you can kind of create your own living nightmare the more attached you are to things. And that's what was going on with Locke. His attachments were making his own life, miserable nightmare of
very difficult,
constantly reliving, re-experiencing his own guilt.
Because then as soon as he'd move on and find love somewhere else, he just felt guilty.
Yeah.
He just felt guilty about it. And that was his own, of his own shadow, basically, that was just like consuming his life, just forcing the feelings of love to become feelings of shame and guilt. It's like, ooh, that's hard to live with.
Now that you say that, I think that's the way that I am going to choose to read this is I choose to read this as he wants to be with Celes now, but being with Celes, it makes him feel guilty.
Yes.
And so like he can't really give his heart to her.
Right.
And so
I think that's right.
That makes it, seeing it in that light makes it a little less like, oh, Celes is your second choice. If you could have had Rachel, you would have had her. No, it's just that being with Celes, he just couldn't get over this fact that he had failed in the past and whatever trauma he had been through, it made it impossible for him to be with someone new, even if he wanted to.
It would have been really cool if he could get over that with her instead of with Rachel. Because once again, the name Rachel, I brought it up in Silent Hill 2, so I may as well bring it up now. Rachel was the preferred wife of the two lovers of Jacob, Israel, in the Bible, in Genesis. His preferred lover was Rachel.
Yeah.
His preferred wife was Rachel, not Leah. Yeah. So anyways, we've got Rachel being there, dead, and then we've got Celeste kind of feeling a lot like Leah right now.
That's kind of how I was feeling.
I'm the lesser of the two,
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, that wraps up Locke's scenario. I just have this dialogue. It just kind of came up on the screen from Mog, since we kind of went over this already, but I just think it's funny to read. An old man named Rama taught me your language, Kupo. He kept showing up in my dreams and telling me to help you, Kupo, so I'm going to help you, Kupo. I bet the Yeti will come along, too. He'll be a big help. He can be a little wild, though, Kupo. He should be here in the mine somewhere. He'll help us if I order him to. Let's go look for him.
Bravo for the character on the cover of this game, right? And the advertising and all of that.
And then,
Bravo.
And then you get to Umaru, and Mog says, "I'm your boss, Kupo. You're going to join us."
He is. You know what's funny? When I hear that, I am imagining the Mog from that advertisement sitting back at his desk. Next, hey you man, I'm your boss. All right, you listen to me. Get out of here and go fight.
I love that.
It's hilarious.
It's fantastic. Okay, so I think we've gone over all of the characters now. We've got them all back in the party.
Unfortunately, my notes are all over the place.
Okay,
but I believe that we have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, there's more stuff,
but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's extra content. There's the whole Tower of Fanatics you can do. There's not really a lot of story necessarily to be found there. Maybe I should just at least read an entry on the Tower of Fanatics, just to. We're not really a lore podcast, but just for completeness' sakes.
This is a really good one. So
I don't have internet. I keep forgetting.
So Locke says, as he leaves after the whole situation with Rachel and after he comes back from it, like in the SNES, he says, "I feel lighter than air from here on. Let's go. We have work to do."
Yep.
Like he's finally unburdened, right?
The Cultist Tower, also known as the Tower of Fanatics, is a location.
This is where the gem box is.
Yes.
I remember now. Yeah.
Tower lies along the Serpent Trench, surrounded by mountains, only accessible by the Falcon. So, this entry says, the tower is said to house a great treasure, and thieves frequently attempt to scale it, coming out empty-handed or not at all due to the tower's security measures. When the party visits the tower, they find several cultists marching in circles in front of it, including Strago. We already went over that. If the party climbs the tower, they find a rare relic at the top, the soul of Thamasa. After they take the treasure, the cultists surround the party, demanding its return, and the cult's leader attacks the party. Yep. The leader is defeated, and the cultists disappear. So the soul of Thamasa is also known as the gem box, which is what you just said.
Yeah, the gem box.
It's a relic, FF6. It changes the basic magic command to the dual cast command, which is awesome, because you can cast 2 spells, which casts 2 spells in 1 turn. This makes it extremely powerful for spellcasters in both offensive and defensive contexts. The relic is rare, and the player will only have access to 1 for most of the game. So, it gives you the dual cast spell, or ability. So, that's that. Okay. Should we go to Kefka's Tower?
That is my next note. However, it's 7 o'clock. I don't know exactly when we started this. We've probably been going for something like an hour 15.
About an hour 15.
Hour 15. Should we just make this into
the final
one episode? Because I still have a good page and a half of notes.
Let's do it.
Or should we do a new episode?
Let's do it. It'll be maybe a short final one, and maybe we can do some discussion with the...
Okay, that'd be nice. That'd be good.
To wrap it up or something. Okay, we've made an executive decision. We could keep going and sort of finish up in one episode here, but I think we're going to stop now because most of my notes are from around this part.
Me too, yeah. So
is the very end of the game stuff. So in order to not make this a 2-hour episode, I guess, which is a little long for our tastes in editing afterwards, we try to keep this more around an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We're going to stop there, and we'll make the final episode, episode 10, be Kefka's Tower and the ending of the game. So join us then, and we will finish the game next week. Thanks, everybody, for watching. You still have time, as of when this goes up, you still have time to go vote for maybe a day more on what we play next. So if you want to join up on Patreon or Subscribe Star and go vote, you can do that. It's still live. You can still go do it. Okay, see you next week. Peace out.